Yeah, time's over, 14:03. Let's start with this action pack. And in order, we have to have our Q&A session. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, depending from where in the world you're located and joining this presentation. I want to welcome you to this presentation. It's about the process and optimization action pack we have delivered for the atomic automation solution. Before we start with the product, let me introduce myself. My name is Peter Grundl. I'm part of the Tricise company, but not from the very beginning. I started with UC4. That was the previous name of Atomic, which you might have heard about it. I started with UC4 in the beginning of the product cycle. It was the first contact was 1986, where I started to got in contact with a product called Joku 2000. This was the job scheduling tool we had at that time on the mainframe. So it was a scheduler for mainframe environments. UC4, the former product of Atomic, well, the name has changed meanwhile. UC4 came on the market, was introduced changing 94 to 95, yeah. And since then, I'm working with the product. I know other scheduling product or workload automation products as well, but my focus is the automation suite from Atomic, nowadays Broadcom. The company I'm currently working for, and let me introduce Tricise. Tricise acts as a service partner, a development partner, a supporting partner for this project. And let's start from the basis. The baseline is we offer Atomic product support. So if you have licensed the product via Tricise or previously via Capture, you will be serviced by us, by my colleagues working in support. So we do the entire ticket management for you. We have the interface to Broadcom support. So if something cannot be solved by ourselves, we are in close contact with Broadcom. Let me call it my former colleagues or our former colleagues still working at Broadcom. A technical account manager can be assigned to your company to overlook all the issues. And in addition, what we also offer is a premium support 24/7. Besides the product support, click the wrong direction on the use the wrong direction on the mouse wheel. Sorry, correct direction on the mouse wheel. In the morning it was different. What we also do is we deal with application managed services, AMS, and we also offer SaaS services. So it's the automation engine in a cloud, software as a service. For these platforms, we have 24/7 system support. And in addition, we offer 3 additional options. You can consume administration services. You can have job or process monitoring services, doing operations for you, monitoring the environment, react on errors, etc. And if it comes to implementation and your company is running out of resources, for example, we can also do the implementation, the so-called workflow design for you. For operation services, we are ready to support Atomic customer in their daily operations. So instead of having an in-house operations team, you can also pass the control, let's put it in quotes, pass the control to our team. When it comes to product training, you start from scratch with Atomic, or When it comes to an upgrade of a product, let's say going from version 21 to version 22, this is all covered by us using the product training services. We run public trainings, standardized trainings. There's a standardized, not documentation, that's the other word, agenda for it. We offer customer-specific trainings. Let's say if you want to run a training that should contain 2 days of an end user basic training, but the focus should be on SAP, not that much on Windows and Unix. And then as a customer, you want to have a 1-day general overview of script training, and for the remaining days, we should focus on admin tasks. Possible, why not? I did it so many times in the past. And of course, the third aspect is we offer individual tailor-made know-how transfer workshops. Okay. Add-ons, and this is today's topic. We have a lot of add-ons or action packs we offer, like or consulting solutions, like the system health check. We will retrieve information from your atomic system to find out, do we have bottlenecks? And if there are bottlenecks, what can be the reason for a bottleneck? Is it database related? Is it you don't have enough work processes, communication processes to run operations, and so on and so on. What we will focus today, what we'll talk about today is the process analysis and optimization package. What we else have is a version upgrade. We support you in upgrading from a previous release to the most current version. We do performance tuning. There are pre-built solutions available. The most common one is the SAP system copy, allowing you to duplicate an SAP system. Let's say you have an up and running prod system and you want to create a duplicate, mask all the sensitive information, customer related stuff, and so on and so on. Mass data processing. That's working with IS solutions, industry solutions, for telecom, for healthcare, for any other areas SAP does support. Atomic action packs, in addition, command line utility, we call it command line utilities as a backup utility or a backup action pack in place Java tools. And last but not least, the 3C release manager can be consumed by us. 3C, if you haven't heard about it, there will be a there was a specific webinar for this. 3C Release Manager is a tool that helps you in staging your environments, getting objects from one environment or one atomic client to another, with a change management in between or not. And finally, top level on this pyramid, our expert consultancy service, ranging from the installation of the product, upgrading the product, doing the configuration. We also do implementations if you're running out of resources. I already mentioned this in the SaaS step below. Implementations, integrations, upgrading the system, etc., etc. This is handled by the system. Okay, so far to the company, so far to my person. Let's change the direction. Trainer focus to product focus. If we see the evolution of automation it has all started on top with the classical job scheduling environments running on mainframe systems. On IBM mainframe systems, on BS2000, Siemens Fujitsu mainframe systems, or other operating systems. The main focus was task-based execution using a start time. Every day at 1800 or 1900, it is necessary to start the day and close workflow or procedure that does something in the financial area of your bookkeeping applications. The focus was we have simple, we have sequential processes, we have easy to use processes. Something everyone can deal with because it was that simple. It was just a sequential combination of individual steps. Then it comes to number 2, workload automation. What has changed? We have more complex process chains, external dependencies, internal dependencies in a workflow, synchronization mechanism. The workflow is not allowed to start as long as another workflow, another task is running. And it was the integration of the classical batch scheduling with the upcoming web services functionality. So we had to integrate both. And it was the introduction of event-based control. We no longer, well, usually, customers no longer start workflows or single file transfers or any other kind of startable objects on a given start time. No, they want to start workflows as soon as a file appears, a file resides on an FTP inbound directory. That's an example. And it was the age of client-server environments. A mainframe is not a client-server environment. A mainframe is, as the name says, a mainframe, and you have terminals connected, directly connected to the mainframe. Okay, that got changed. Mainframes can be connected via Ethernet cable, so the terminal must no longer be connected by a one-by-one copper cable, can use Ethernet communication to connect to the mainframe. So workload automation brought the client-server environments into the game. Number 3, hyper-automation, or how Gartner calls it, SOAP. SOAP is not to be mixed up with the web service protocol. You might know that web services started with the SOAP protocol, and nowadays that's state-of-the-art web services. Each and every web service I know is since ages using a REST protocol. SOAP is a Gartner terminology and stands for Service Orchestration and Automation Platforms. So in this area, we have to deal with SOAP platforms. Holistic automation is part of the game. A self-service approach. No one longer calls the operators, calls the data center, dear colleagues, please start this workflow at 1300 tomorrow, or send an email to operations. No. You go to a web service portal, you log on to the web service, you select your job or your object you want to start. You give a start time, you click on the OK or Done button, and that's it. Self-service approach is a big topic here. Real-time data orchestration. So it's no longer online batch is one of the key words here. It's no longer a static batch that will run in your scheduling environment. It's more and more getting into the real-time areas. And, you know it, cloud automation. So we need to build an integration between our scheduling environment, our workload environment, and the cloud target platforms. Might be Amazon, might be Google, might be Azure, Microsoft platform, any other platform will do. And number 4, which is currently coming, is an artificial automation orchestration. What does it mean? Customers are asking for low-code integration. Customers are asking for, not all of them, but some of them are asking for AI-powered process control. So there's a little bit of logic in the product. And in most environments we have seen is it's that the business drives your scheduling. So it's controlled by the business and no longer by start time, calendar dependencies, and repetitive checks and so on. It's controlled by the business in the background. We have to integrate our infrastructure and we have to merge applications between various levels. That's the point here. These are the big bullet points here. By the way, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. I thought it should be good. If you have any questions, please write them to the chat area. At the end of this presentation, we will have a Q&A session, so I will pick up the questions, read them out, and give the answers. Coming back to the previous one, wrong direction. Now we are previous one, the evaluation of automation. You see it has started on a mainframe, changed to workload automation, complex, etc., etc., etc. It's getting more and more complex and more powerful. Let me say powerful. And this process needs adaptation. Let's talk about licensing. A node-based license model does no longer fit into the current situation. Node-based license means you have to pay per computer, per machine on which you want to run scheduling. This can be a Windows machine, this can be a Unix machine, this can be a mainframe machine, etc. So if I want to run a job on a mainframe, because this needs to be included in my business process, I need, talking about Automic, I need to have an agent on this machine. In order to run the agent, I need to buy a license because currently I don't have a mainframe license. In this node-based licensing concept, I need to pay per the nodes I want to run batch on it. This does no longer fit into today's situation because a web service call usually does not justify the price of a node licensing. Just to run file transfers. If you have a handful of file transfers, you need to run on a daily basis. Do you want to pay the node for the machines, or is it better to pay per execution? A node is not for €5 or 10 euros or 20 or 100 euros. It costs a little bit more. If we pay per execution, it makes life easier. And of course, if I'm responsible for the budget in my company, I would think twice. Do I pay for the entire node in order to run file transfers or to run scheduling on this platform? Or is it better to pay 0.01 cent or euro cent for an execution? And if there are only 5 executions or 10 executions per day on this platform, it's much more easier and much more cost saving to use this usage-based license model. And this is what more and more customers experience. And Broadcom is also changing, which you might know, is also changing the license model. Adaption, second part. If we still use the methods we have used in the good old times working on the mainframe, having the scheduler running on mainframe environments, this might no longer be state-of-the-art technique. Nowadays, there are better methods, faster methods, looking more colorful, brighter, better sound, etc. You know what I'm talking about. We should change the routines. We should update our routines to make them state-of-the-art aware and to be ready for the future. That's one important point. And for this, to analyze your existing workflows, your objects, to analyze it and to give optimizations that at the end of the day, we should give some recommendations how to optimize your system. Therefore, we've created our analysis and optimization package, which we now will see in detail. So what does it cover? We have system optimization support. So one of the outputs of this process optimization pack is it reports, it counts the number of executions you have on a daily basis, per week, per month. It counts the number of executions per agent to find out there might be a misconfigured host group object, which leads to a situation to have 90% or 95% of the executions are only on one agent and the remaining 5% or 10% on the other agent. Well, it should be a balanced system. We should not have the majority of executions just on one platform. Reason for this typically is a misconfigured host group object. The analysis we do is covering more than 20 areas, different areas. How many tasks you start in Automic? What are the tasks that will fail most of the time? We'll see a list on the next slide. How about performance of your system? Can we make it more performant? So you don't have to invest money in upgrading the hardware, adding additional CPUs, adding more memory to the system. If we can change the execution behavior, if we can reduce the number of executions down to a number which makes sense for you, why not? Without changing or without running into the Broadcom execution-based license issue. No, that's just for on-premise or any other kind of environments. So without having the need of changing the license model, we can analyze your system, or the optimization pack will analyze the system and give some recommendations about execution, about failing tasks, and so on. How does it work? What's the overall plan? It starts on the left side. We have to determine the current status. So we capture the current status. How is your system working? Second step is the action pack collects data we need for the analysis and to give recommendations. How technically, how is this working? We are running SQL queries on your database. Read-only SQL queries. So don't be afraid that there's a process that runs on the database. No, we are running select statements on the database. No insert, no update, no delete statements, depending on the database type. Databases we currently support are used by most of the customers, Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, and Postgres. DB2, if you're running a DB2 database, or still running a DB2 database for Automic, please contact us and we'll find a solution for it. After we send you the action pack, it needs to be customized. It needs to be configured. Database specific parameters, username, password, JDBC driver settings. It needs to be customized. We need to tell the program where to store the output files, which you have to send to us. We will analyze the output files. They are not binary files. You can read them yourself. They are CSV, comma separated value files, which will be reviewed by us. Together with you as the customer, we will set up an workshop where we analyze the output and we share and discuss the results. Starting points, which will be a quick win, can happen next week. If we find out that it makes sense to change the execution interval of a process, and you say, hey, Peter, yeah, I agree. It's not necessary to start this process in a 2-minute interval. It's fine to have it started in a 10-minute interval. That's a quick win. And you lower the number of executions. Number one. Number two, performance looks better because the engine does not have to use that many resources to start the process. The database will be happy because in the database, after changing from a 2-minute to a 10-minute interval, we will have less statistical entries, less report informations in the database. So there are several aspects which need to be considered. Yeah, at the end of the show, at the end of step number 3, analysis of the current processes, we give recommendations. And this is for a fixed price. There are no hidden add-ons. Let's say we will do the analysis, but dear customer, if we have to sit together and discuss this, it costs you extra 100 or 200 euros. No, nonsense. This is not the case. That's part of the game. In addition, and this will be based on time and materials, we can adapt the processes for you. If you find out, hey folks from Tricise, I'm currently running 2 other projects and I have to focus on these projects. I don't have manpower available. We can do it for you. What also makes sense is to review the results after 6 months or after 1 year. We will do the optimization pack again. We'll run the optimization pack again and see, okay, the suggestions we made, has it worked? Or do we need to adjust something? Or is it all green now? Rerun the action pack. Redo the analysis, of course. And this is in this light gray, sorry, colorblind, light red colored area. This is project work we will do for you based on time and material. No fixed price, it depends on the amount. Some of the important, most interesting evaluations are analysis of the 50 or 100 most error-prone jobs. Is there a job that fails 90% of the time and only 10% will lead to an ended okay status? So let's discuss, let's find out what is the reason for this. We're also checking for inactive objects in active workflows. I don't know where this came from, but we see it more and more that customers are deactivating objects, but keep the objects as part of the workflow. So you might know when you start a workflow, the activation and generation phase starts. And although the object is marked as inactive, there's some traffic running in the background. There's some communication to the database, to and from the database. We have to find out the status of the object. Isn't it better to remove the object from the workflow if we don't need to have this step any longer instead of deactivating? We have seen it a couple of times, deactivated objects in a workflow. Processes started manually. We found out there was another customer. We found out that 60% of the executions were done in an automated way, started from a schedule, started from an event process, and 40% were manual executions. And then we found out from these 40% manual executions, 30% can be automated. And so we did. How are agents doing with jobs? Before I mentioned this misconfigured host group object, that has led to a situation where most of the executions took place on one agent, but it should be a balanced system because the platform was mirrored, same environment on two machines. We should see a 50% execution, which was not the case for this customer. What are your top executions? And I will give you an example afterwards of such a customer report. And how do you start your objects? Are they part of a workflow? Are most of the executions coming from a workflow? How is it about file trigger? Checking the existence of a file. If the file is there, starting the follow-up sequence. Our object started. How many starts do we have in the system? Initiated by activate use your object, the script function available in Automic. Yeah, let's see a real report I've prepared. And that's not from my local test systems. No, that's was the output of a real customer process and analysis project. And I have to apologize for the titles. It's a mixture of English and German. Anyway, I will do my speech in English. I will explain it. The period was from October last year to November last year. The first graphic shows the number of executions, and you can see that most of the executions, and we evaluated jobs and file transfers to be ready for the license model of Broadcom. We found out that most of the executions were done via jobs. It was 2.57 million, and only 181,000 executions were file transfer options. If you break it down by clients, most of the traffic occurs in clients 11 and 1. Top one is client 11. We have 1.4 million executions, followed by client 1, 1.35 executions. And then we have a big gap, and then we have some low running environments, clients, client 22, client 21, client 12. If you group by months, the execution months, then I will explain the reason why we see this growth of executions. In October, this customer had 1.135 million executions. In November, he had 1.6 million executions. And the last step, which belongs to this package, is the discussion presenting the results to the customer. And we discussed this with the customer and said, hey, nice, you had an increase in significant increase in execution. I say, yeah, we took over a new department and we implemented the logic in Automic. And that was the reason why we had this jumping from 1.1 to 1.6 million executions. I say, okay, you have not changed your periodic execution intervals. You kept all, but the department brought in new objects, new executions, and that was the reason. Interesting, and most, especially for me, don't know how you feel, but if you see this pie graph, we have 1, 2, 3 big areas. What does this mean? In October and November, the time frame for the analysis, we had 3 objects which are responsible for most of the executions in this atomic system. We have ranked 1, 342,000 executions, 12.7%. Ranked as object number 2, 8.78%, and number 3, also a little bit less, 8.78%. This can be a starting point. If we, in addition, find out that this execution was initiated by a periodic interval with a very small number of minutes, then we can discuss this with the customer and say, well, customer, you see, these are the top 3 objects in your system. We found out that the object is starting from a time event within 1 minute interval, or it's a periodic execution with a 1 or 2 minute interval. Can we reduce the number of executions? Does it make sense, or will this attempt the process, the overall process, in a bad way? So we keep it as it is, if it makes sense for you. But see, that's one starting point. If this process, furthermore, was developed in the early times, coming from the mainframe, coming from workload automation in the late 90s, 2000 years, at that time, maybe it was state of the art to have it running in a very small interval. But nowadays, is it still necessary? And furthermore, if this process is searching for the existence of file, so it checks, it runs a file trigger on a platform and starts a follow-up process. Nowadays, the surrounding environment has changed. The file will be delivered via an FTP, via web service. It would make sense to check the web service, because once the web service successfully delivered the file on a platform, the web service can use our Automic REST API and start the workflow in Automic. There's no longer the need, if it fits the situation, of course, there's no longer the need to have a polling process, checking file exists, file exists, file exists. No, the external service can tell us, file is there, please take over and start the workflow. REST API had not existed some 15 years ago. Command line API was available at that time, but REST API was not available at that time. So processes got changed. We have new functionalities, new methods available in Automic. It makes sense to check existing processes and then to think about how can we rework, how can we optimize the process. Performance utilization of Automic, and that's one of the goals, will go down. And if we think about changing the license model to the new one introduced by Broadcom, it's also better to have this in place. Good. Yeah, the expert, whoever from our team will do the process optimization for you, this expert will be available during the period, either remote or on-site, depending on you. We offer both. And the expert will be available after the process and analysis has completed to support you if changing, adapting the processes should be done by us because you're running out of resources. Currently, no one available that for a quick win that can change the process within the next week or within the next 2 weeks. I'm not talking about long-term changes. I'm talking about, or we are talking about quick wins. That's what makes it interesting. Less effort, quick win. Already talked about the results. Yeah, you will get a detailed analysis of what is running on, what is going on in your atomic system. You will get a practical guidance and recommendations, changing execution frequency. There's one aspect what we also check, just that comes to my mind as I'm talking about recommendation. What we also see is that customers have a workflow, and within the workflow, there's the same object is added multiple times to the workflow. 10 years, 15 years back, we had situations where this was necessary because there was no other method to achieve the goal. Nowadays, there are alternatives available. Okay, the workflow will still run in that way, but might make sense to change the process. So instead of having, and this happened to a customer, it has 12 times the same object in a workflow. 12 times means 12 executions. We reduced it to 3 executions from this workflow. Same result. Yeah, monitoring the system changes and measurement of the the effectiveness of the integration. What are the costs? 5,000 all in all. No hidden costs, no, yeah, but Tricise, if you present this, it costs me 500 euros plus. No, not the case, nonsense. So all in all, 5,000 euros. You will get the action pack. You will provide the results. We analyze, we create the report and present the report to you. It's for one atomic system. Let's discuss if you have a pre-prod and a prod environment. Let's discuss it. That's not topic of today's session. Yeah, one aspect is the new license model introduced by Broadcom, execution-based license. Again, if you're not about to change to a new license model, it also helps with the existing environment, reducing the number of execution. Where can we save utilization in the system? Where can we free resources of the atomic environment? Changing license politics, changing to a new license model is a different topic, which might happen this year, might happen depending on your license agreement, might happen next year. Yeah, if you're interested, we're reaching the end. If you're interested in further events, the next event we will run is the security action pack, which focuses on security related settings, anonymous parameters, password semi-encryption. Well, no, it's not an encryption, it's an obfuscation. But anyway, let's call it password encryption. There will be 2 sessions for those of you want to join the English session. That's same time, different date, May 27 at 1400 CET. The German session will start in the morning, 10 o'clock, same day, 10 o'clock in the morning. And we plan to have more events like this. Analysis. We also had in the past, it was a webinar about 3C. We had the health check webinar, a short introduction to the atomic health check. So best is stay tuned and check tricise.com/events. You will see a list of events we plan in the future, and you will also get this information if you subscribe to our LinkedIn channel. We'll also provide this information via LinkedIn, of course.